So another day closer to Halloween and another horror review for you all. Last year a puzzle game released on the eShop called SLAYAWAY CAMP. It was a fun and charming nod to all things 80s horror, and the developers have just released a sequel, this time tied to a license of one of horror's most notorious icons. Nope, not him. Or him. No, it's not bloody Leprechaun. That's it, Jason Voorhees of the Friday the 13th series. So is Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle a game fit for such a staple of the horror scene, or would we have been better off with a Leprechaun game anyway? I'm Glen for SwitchUp, thank you to Blue Wizard Digital for the review copy, and thanks to Mark for contributing on the graphics, audio and value sections of this review so as that we could get it out on time. And now, let's find out. Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle sees you navigating environments on an isometric grid, much like in SLAYAWAY CAMP. When you move, you continue to move until hitting something, and must therefore use the scenery to stop your momentum, putting you in the correct position to kill the counsellors on the screen. Killing all counsellors will see the arrival of the final girl or boy, there's always a surviving character in horror films after all, and reaching them will activate the end of the level as well as the kill zone minigame. Hit the marker at the right time and you will ensure that no one survives this night and earn yourself some bloodlust. Miss and they will escape, thus ensuring you earn much less bloodlust. Earn enough bloodlust and you will be able to level up, which in turn earns you special weapon upgrades. Certain hazards will begin to appear on stages, and this is where the strategy really comes into play. Although you may very well be able to kill a particular counsellor quite easily, it sometimes puts you in a position where your next move will result in failure. In this instance, you can use the undo option to go back one move, allowing you to replan your attack, so that not only can you kill the counsellor, but that you also put yourself in a good position for future moves too. You can also use these hazards to your advantage, scaring counsellors so that they fall into them themselves. In terms of controls, the left stick or the D-pad controls Jason, and clicking the stick in gives a bird's eye view perspective that is particularly helpful. You undo a previous move by pressing the Y button, and you can restart a stage by pressing X. Bizarrely though, sometimes you seem to need to undo a move before the game will let you restart. It's by no means game breaking, it's just a curious little oversight. You can also play the game using the touch controls in handheld mode, and these work well enough too. As you progress, newer mechanics are added. These include prison guards who have a line of sight that you cannot stop in, or only having a set number of moves until the SWAT team arrives. Should you get completely stuck, you can ask Jason's mum, Pamela Voorhees, for help by pressing the minus button. Aside from her looking surprisingly well for someone who was decapitated 30 odd years ago, she'll also give you a hint about how to solve the problem, or let you skip the level entirely, allowing you to move on but showing that you still need to complete that level, or she'll show you how to complete the level. The setup for this is not very intuitive, as it shows you the level being played out in a sped up manner for you to then replicate. On levels with quite a few moves, it can be quite hard to keep track of what's happening, leading to you having to watch the solution a few times. In terms of gameplay mechanics, this is all practically identical to the previous game SLAYAWAY CAMP, albeit with a Friday the 13th skin. So is there anything actually new for this entry? Well, first is the aforementioned weapon system. As stated earlier, levelling up nets you packs of weapons that are graded from bronze to gold, and you can equip Jason with any of these weapons at any time. You can also trade in unwanted weapons for a newer, better weapon. This doesn't add anything to the gameplay per se, although certain weapons do have a unique animation that you can then see on the death scenes whenever you claim a victim. There is the daily death mode, which has a unique daily puzzle with the lure of unlocking rare custom skins for achieving 13 straight wins. These challenges are very difficult, and hints are also disabled for these. You can also play the kill zone minigame outside of the main mode, and this may well serve as another distraction. Gameplay doesn't evolve much from the original, but it remains fun nonetheless, and it receives 17 out of 20, with controls receiving 16 out of 20. The first game in this series followed a trend which we both felt very often comes across as a little bit lazy, that being the use of Minecraft-esque voxel style blocks for characters. Since then, developer Blue Wizard Digital have clearly refined the aesthetic considerably, and while still no showstopper, it looks all the better for it. Gone are the graphics of old to be replaced with a more stylised 3D. They retain the simple, playful style of the first in terms of the colour palette, with the token splashes of crimson decorating your screen. What worked well remains, the stark contrast between the on-screen violence and the almost cutesy visuals. Of note are the transitions between levels. It all looks much more slick and professional, most likely due to the film licence, and the small animations at the end of each set of stages keep things interesting. There are a vast number of different environments, but they do, by the game's very nature, tend to feel quite claustrophobic. It would have been nice to see some larger, perhaps more dynamic levels, a la Overcooked, while still maintaining a stationary puzzle environment. Performance seems good enough, but not stellar. I can't tell if it's just me, but it doesn't seem as smooth as it should be. Fans of horror will be pleased to note that of the many custom skins you can unlock, most will be from the films you have come to love, while the maps themselves seem to have a mixture of original settings plus others taken from the films, such as the ship from Jason Takes Manhattan, or even the space levels courtesy of Jason X. Music is decent enough throughout and is punctuated with the deathly cries of numerous jocks, nerds and millennials. Although there are several songs, nothing felt overly unique. The voiceover actor does a great job of tying everything together, and although you will hear many of his lines repeated, they are good enough so as not to become an irritation. The haunting and iconic repeats often, almost too often at times, but the option to go into the menu and press a button dedicated to it certainly made me smile. HD Rumble makes a welcome appearance and it serves to tie audio and visuals nicely. Graphics receive 15 out of 20 and audio also receives 15 out of 20. Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle costs £15.29 or $19.99, but it does have a 15% discount at launch lasting until the 5th of November. There are an absolute ton of levels in this one, over 100, with difficulty and challenge gradually increasing as you progress further, and new mechanics keeping the experience fresh. And thankfully, the developers have also put a few longevity measures in, such as the Daily Death Challenge and the Kill Zone minigame. My main gripe is the price. It feels about $5 too high to me, and is indeed about $5 more than the original was. Still, there really are a great deal of levels, so if you enjoy this type of game, you'll probably feel like you're getting bang for your buck. Value receives 12 out of 20. To conclude, Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle is a fun puzzle game that adds enough new mechanics as you go along to keep you invested. It has clearly been made by people who feel a lot of love for the franchise, and they have used the license well, creating levels based on the settings of the films whilst also adding little nods that fans of the series will enjoy finding. The game hasn't evolved as much as it possibly should from the first game, and the price is also higher this time around, but if you loved SLAYAWAY Camp and are eager for more, then Camp Crystal Lake may be the place for you. Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle gets a SwitchUp score of 75%. Many thanks as always for watching. Please remember to like if you like what you've just seen and heard. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, and hit the notification button possibly if you are subscribed to keep up to date with our latest content. And just a final note to the developers, I think maybe there's another horror icon that quite fancies his own game too. Happy gaming.